well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam & Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I'm so glad you're with me on the program today. And we are going to be talking about one of the newest ways that gun control advocates are trying to infringe on our right to keep and bear arms. If you cannot afford to purchase a gun, cash up front, well, they don't think you should be able to buy a firearm. That's right. They're going after the buy now, pay later practice. Again, buying a gun on credit, in essence. That, they say, should not be allowed. And here to talk about it, we've got the CEO of Credova, Dusty Wunderlich. This is a company that is all about buy now, pay later, and they are targeting gun owners and sportsmen. And sadly, there is a need for their services these days. So we're going to get into the attack on the buy now, later process, at least when it comes to gun purchases, and what companies like Credova are doing to ensure that Americans who want to exercise their right to keep and bear arms, but don't have the money to pay for a firearm right up front, can still do so without being priced out of exercising their Second Amendment rights. Take a look and a listen. Dusty, thanks so much for coming on the program. I'm sorry that I was not able to make it out to SHOT Show this year to see you in person, but I appreciate you doing me on the program today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cam. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. So, I mentioned in my introduction that this is sort of one of the newest ways that the gun control groups have found to attack gun ownership, right, is going after those folks who can't afford to pay cash up front, who do rely on buy now, pay later services. And they seem to want to draw this line in the sand that, this is fine for all kinds of retail purchases, except when it comes to a purchase that quite literally could save your life, right? At that point, if you can't afford to fork over 100% of the money for that firearm, they think you shouldn't get that gun.
You're absolutely right. It's been stunning to see the hypocrisy within the politicians that have come after this, which is nothing new, I think, from what we've seen over the last couple decades. But the very politicians that are the ones that are going to complain about discrimination, of those underserved communities in the financial sectors are completely okay with taking the only constitutionally protected product and eliminating a form of payment for those consumers. So it's just rooted in hypocrisy. There's no strong ideological foundation in which they're arguing this point. As I think most of your listeners know, this is just catering to the political whims of the day. And, it's something, I think we're really the only ones in the industry right now that are, offering this product throughout the gun industry, but also taking a stand when media and Congress has come after us, because we believe that there's strong constitutional evidence that we need to protect our rights. And that even comes down to buy now, pay later products.
And again, the gun control advocates point to a couple of very high profile examples, right, of individuals who used buy now, pay later and went on to commit horrific crimes. But to suggest that, listen, if that option wasn't available to them, those crimes wouldn't have happened, I think ignores the reality of violent crime in this country, right? Most firearms that are used in crimes are acquired illicitly. So if that individual had been precluded from being able to purchase a firearm, A, they could have saved their money up, right, if they were really intent on committing this crime. But B, they could have also acquired a firearm unlawfully. So I think about, those one or two examples that they mention, as horrible as they are. But I contrast that to what I would say is the much more average customer, right, for companies like you and Credova. People who are living on a fixed income, paycheck to paycheck, they want to be able to exercise their right to keep their arms. They might feel like they need to exercise their right to keep their arms because of where they live, because of circumstances in their life. And again, they can't save for 6 or 7 or 8 months before they, have the cash in hand to go buy a firearm. That might be too late for those individuals. Why should they not be able to access a firearm using a buy now, pay later program, as opposed to, again, having to come up with the cash in hand to make this purchase? Who is served by making them jump through all of those additional hoops and hurdles?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we're a payments mechanism, no different than a credit, debit, cash, however you want to pay. I think when you really look at it, Cam, at the end of the day, this comes down to we are probably the only outspoken payment system in the firearm industry. We're not a big publicly traded company like Visa or MasterCard. So they've made us a target in a way because of that. And really, what's funny about it is we can, I think, safely claim that we are the most secure payments system in the payments ecosystem for firearms. Every time a consumer comes through our platform, we go through a number of fraud checks with our algorithms. We go through a credit check each time. You can't say that with cash or debit or credit cards. So in a way, it's been to us pretty laughable as Congress and the media has come after us. It's like, hey, look, we're actually the safest mechanism. But it goes to show that just the corruption that we see out of the left and out of Congress. We're outspoken in what we believe in and protecting our Constitution. We're not as big as some of the other payment ecosystems. So they've made us a target there. It has really, they can't stand on the logic and the facts is buy now, pay later from a payment mechanism and safety because we stand out, I think, as the best in the industry. So again, it's politicians being politicians.
But do these politicians pose an existential threat to businesses like Credova, as well as to gun owners or would-be gun owners who utilize these services? I mean, how concerned are you that, if the votes are there, if Democrats get their way, that they're going to pass a bill signed by Joe Biden that would outlaw buy now, pay later for gun purchases?
Absolutely. I mean, they wield a lot of power. We've seen not only the politicians, but media. Really, they know that we stand on our ethics and we're not going to budge. So what we've seen from media, which, we've seen media and Congress work pretty hand in hand together on this issue. We've seen them reach out to our partners and try to intimidate them, our family. I've had reporters calling my wife, who has nothing to do with this business. And, it's just pure intimidation. And yeah, they're not going to stop until they try to shut us down. And this is what I appreciate so much about this community, the 2A community, because from my purview, it's really the last community that is willing to take a stand against the tyranny that we're seeing, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. So as long as we're we're breathing, Cam, we're going to keep fighting. And if they, shut us down through a bill, we'll go out and innovate the next way in which we can get firearms in lawful citizens' hands.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear you say that. And I hope that it doesn't come to that, right? I mean, I hope that we're able to have a successful election cycle, that this threat will at least dissipate. But, again, even at the federal level, we've got this going on in so many anti-gun states that can, try to make headway, in Sacramento, in Boston, Albany, New York. So, even a great election cycle at the federal level in 2024, I don't think is going to mitigate this threat entirely. What can consumers do? I mean, what can we as gun owners do to push back against this idea that again, this is another way that they try to treat the Second Amendment as a second class right. And so maybe that is the hook, right? Is that this is just another way that you are disrespecting a fundamental civil right. You are infringing on people's ability to exercise that right by trying to curtail buy now, pay later. And again, I think you're putting lives at risk. I mean, what are the messages that these politicians need to be hearing from gun owners?
Yeah, it's a great question, and a lot of what we've been doing from our side, and then there's other companies like us, which we're now calling the parallel economy. We just recently partnered with Public Square, which is the largest patriotic marketplace. They are an advocate for the 2A space and those that are companies that are serving that space. Companies like Rumble. I think first and foremost, voting with our dollars is almost the best way we can do this. Go out and support those companies, which many in the 2A space are doing. So we know what money does throughout this economy, and even politicians have to listen to where the money goes. So I'm a big proponent that voluntary exchange using our dollars is probably the best way to influence power in this country. Aside from that, there are still a lot of states and state leaders that are very much in our community and protecting, our constitutional rights. And you're seeing that by the migration of people to those states like Florida and Texas and like Montana, where I live. And if that's where we need to go to do commerce and move our feet and our dollars there, I think that's the other way that we fight this fight, Cam, from a political perspective. I think we're seeing that play out in Texas right now with the border, and we are inevitably seeing a clash between state and federal rights, unlike we've seen since the Civil War. And thankfully, I think we have really strong leaders in some states that are willing to take that fight on. So I think those are a couple of ways in which consumers in the 2A space can support what we're doing in the overall movement.
Do you think this parallel economy that you talked about, I mean, is this going to expand beyond, let's say, the Second Amendment and freedom related issues? Is this going to turn into one day, let's say, the red economy versus the blue economy? I mean, is there that kind of room for growth in this parallel economy that you're talking about?
I really do. I've never seen anything like it in my career of watching entrepreneurs rally around building businesses. And a lot of us think there's 100 million patriots that are underserved, that are disrespected and just treated poorly by the majority of corporations and politicians out there. When you really quantify that, that is $7 trillion in GDP. That is a powerful group of people and a lot of money behind that. So, Cam, I do think it's going that way. I think the pendulum is swinging. There's serious people behind this movement. There's serious money. And it's not all just Republicans as well. I mean, you take Public Square, for example, and there was an article recently in the New York Post about them, about 26% of their users are Democrats. I think 15% are independent. So a lot of people are sick of what's going on, the way they're being treated by corporate America in Congress. So I think this really does have momentum, Cam.
One of the other, you mentioned Florida, Texas. Those are two states that really pushed back hard against these merchant credit codes that Amalgamated Bank was pushing. We ultimately saw, companies like Visa and MasterCard say they're going to hit the pause button on implementing these codes. How does those merchant credit codes impact a company like Credova? And is this something that is, again, part of the parallel economy? Are you able to sidestep these issues? Can gun owners know that, okay, well, if I go to my local gun store and I use a service like Credova, I'm not going to have to worry about them, reporting, hey, Bob spent $2,000 at the gun store. Let's flag this and see this, this is a suspicious purchase.
Right. Yeah, no, thankfully, you saw really good pushback that from a lot of states. And also, I mean, I do have to hand it to Visa and MasterCard. Even Jamie Dimon went in front of Congress and said how dangerous this is. Mm-hmm. And not to say that they're big advocates of 2A, but they see the slippery slope that this starts, and we're the tip of the spear. So thankfully, some of corporate America stepped up as well. Really, I'd say it's more self-preservation than necessarily protecting the 2A community. But yeah, I mean, that is the beauty, I think, of Credova in the sense that, we're not beholden to the payment rails. Your data is completely secure with Credova. We do not share that with anybody. We keep that completely anonymous and private. So in a way, we are a great mechanism in which to, protect the privacy of gun owners, and something we will always fight no matter what, from a legal perspective. And some consumers use, even with the cash to pay, will use our service in an interest-free product just for that ability to keep themselves anonymous and know that they're not being tracked by some woke bank or woke payment processing company. So you're exactly right. We are a mechanism in which gun owners can use to know that their information is being protected.
Which I'm sure makes you another reason for the anti-gunners to target companies like yours. Where are the biggest fights for Credova right now? Are they playing out at the federal level? Are they playing out at the state level? What is on your radar, and what are you responding to at the moment?
Yeah, over the last couple of years, we've seen about 17 on the House side of Congress, 17 Democrats put up two different bills, really to do an outright ban on buy now, pay later products in the firearm space. Thankfully, we're in a place where Republicans have control. Neither one of these bills made it out of committee, but you can see the direction this is going. So we're always cognizant of that. We're always, working with legislators both at the state and federal level to educate them on what we're doing. How we are actually a very safe mechanism for the firearm space, and so we keep a close eye on that, and we'll continue to. Unfortunately, we live in a time where politics is as big a part of your business as the operational component. So. One thing with us, though, Cam, as I said, is we'll continue to innovate and fight this. This is just not an opportunistic industry like it is for so many payment, companies out there, to where if pressure comes, they're just going to get out of the space, which we've seen many, many times from banks and different payment technologies. So, we'll continue to fight this at the state, federal level as hard as we can. Right now, we're in a pretty good place, but you can see that, Congress is setting a tone for if control does change. I think we're in for a big fight.
I think you're right. Well, listen, Dusty, I thank you very much for coming on the program today. I'd love to have you back in the future, because this is not an issue that's going to go away. It was just a couple of weeks ago I saw it was Chris Brown from Brady campaign was, complaining about buy now, pay later on social media. So I know that they're going to continue targeting companies like yours. We will continue to welcome you back to the program. But thanks so much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for bringing attention to this issue. It's I think, really important for the gun community. Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, it's not just we have a right to keep and bear, but in order to exercise that right, we also must have the right to acquire. Right.
Absolutely.
And so that means, I think, again, we have to have the ability to purchase these firearms, and that's one of the avenues that they're doing that they're using to try to choke off our Second Amendment rights. So I think you are right there in that I want to say the sweet spot or the crosshairs, but I think one of those might work. Companies like yours are a big part of how Americans are exercising the right to keep and bear arms, and that makes you a target for the people who don't want us to exercise that fundamental right. So again, Dusty, thanks so much, man. Look forward to doing this again soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Cam. Take care.
My thanks to Dusty for joining us on the program. Looking forward to speaking again in the future. Right now, let's turn our attention to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report. This one from Oakland, California. I believe we've actually talked about this guy before. Here's the latest headline. Oakland armed robbery suspect slips out of court hearing, disables ankle monitor, and is on the run. That's right. So the last time we talked about the individual in question here, Patrice Davis, it was because he was on probation for possession of ammunition. That was part of a plea deal that was handed down in the earlier crime. When he was accused of robbing a family at gunpoint in Oakland earlier this month, back on January the 12th. This is the guy who was told while he was robbing the individuals in a car, hey, there are kids in here. And he allegedly responded, I don't care. I'll kill you and your kids. At one point, according to police, firing shots at the car, missing a baby and a 6-year-old child seated inside. Now, he was arrested a short time later, but was allowed to bond out because of a clerical error. So his bond was originally supposed to be $800,000, but according to the San Jose Mercury News, a clerical error led to that amount being registered at $100,000, and Davis was let loose. He was back in court last Thursday for a hearing, and apparently while his attorneys and the prosecutors were huddled at the bar with the judge, Davis just slipped out of court. That's right. Now, he still had an ankle monitor on, but apparently that was disabled. The last reported location was East Oakland, and he's still on the loose as of a last report, not in custody, has known ties to Oakland and Stockton. And here you go. Once again, somebody who, well known to authorities, I guess taking advantage of the dysfunctional criminal justice system in Oakland, California, where they have all kinds of gun laws on the books. But, those, again, seem to be impacting the law-abiding citizens a lot more than they're impacting the violent criminals in the city. Today's armed citizen story from Houston, Texas. Here's a headline. Grand jury will determine fate of armed bystander who allegedly shot and killed a robbery suspect. This happened a couple of days ago at a gas station in Houston. Apparently, the armed citizen saw the robbery suspect robbing others. And then as the guy was running away after committed a robbery, the armed citizen fired a shot, striking the individual. No arrests made at the time. Now, again, according to eyewitnesses, he was running away when he was shot. But Channel 2 News in Houston spoke to Dr. David Thomas, who is a law enforcement expert, they say, with more than 40 years of experience on the street and in the classroom. And he said he thinks this will be determined to be justified by a grand jury. He said, look, he pistol whipped somebody, speaking of the armed robber, and robbed. He takes off running. That means that everybody he's encountered from that point on, the robbery suspect has the ability to injure and harm. Under Texas statute, that would be the prevailing sentiment that the witness, the bystander who shot him, shot with probable cause. It would be looked at as something as a means of prevention, preventing the suspect from committing another violent crime. That, he says, means that the victim, or the witness rather, who intervened should be in the clear. He said, I would dare say the way Texas is Texas, the legislature is, and the courts are, they would recognize that as a legitimate shooting because though the person was fleeing, they still had the opportunity and the ability to harm other people. Now, he did say that because the armed citizen left the scene, he then talked to police voluntarily, but Thomas said that, that could be a possible charge. He said, because that was a crime that had taken place. He intervened and he left the scene. He said, but I just think under today's rules and the way Texas is under their statutes, I just don't see that. I don't either. I mean, again, if he was concerned about the robbery suspect perhaps having an accomplice, it would make sense. He wanted to get away from the scene of the crime. But again, he contacted law enforcement. He spoke to them. So it wasn't like he was trying to, sneak away without being discovered. Anyway, the Houston police says the Harris County DA's office has determined that their investigation will be presented before a grand jury. But as of right now, the witness is not facing any charges for shooting the robbery suspect. And I'm kind of inclined to agree with the law enforcement expert that Channel 2 spoke with, Dr. David Thomas. I suspect that the grand jury is going to return this as a no bill. Finally today, our good deed of the day, in the right place at the right time, willing to do the right thing. A Louisiana man who helped a stranger at the Atlanta airport, and a story that ultimately went viral because the lady's son started looking for help and trying to find the Good Samaritan, and actually discovered both from the great state of Louisiana. Jamie Tuco went to X in hopes of finding the man who helped his mom. He said he made a post asking for help, finding the man who helped his mother catch her flight at the Atlanta airport. And he says, as anybody knows, it's not the easiest to get around, and it's a big airport. And apparently the trains weren't working that day. His mom has issues, I guess, walking long distance. She's got a knee injury. She's scheduled to have a knee replacement. But he was told by her that she actually had the help of an angel who helped her get across the airport, get to her flight in time. He said, just to know that there was somebody there that was able to help my mom with no questions asked. It was really, really cool. And that's what sparked my entire post. So he sends this, message out into the world. Hey, help me find this person. Folks begin looking. And in less than 2 days, the Good Samaritan was found, identified as a man named Michael Wright from Lafayette, Louisiana. Wright said that he had missed his original flight. And while he was walking through the airport, he spotted Tuco's mom. He said the train was disabled. I'm walking through the airport and I saw this nice lady, not old enough to be my mom, but she reminded me of somebody's mother. He said he helped to get her to her plane on time, made sure that she got settled in before he took off himself. He said it took about 55 minutes to get from C terminal to F terminal. He said, but I got her settled. I went to tell the guy at the counter, please take care of my mom. She said, my son gave me a kiss on the cheek and a big hug. And I thought that was the end of it. But no, it was not. Tuco and Wright have now connected. Tuco works with LSU's baseball team, and he says he is giving Wright tickets to see the Tigers play this spring. He says, I'm really looking forward to getting to meet him in person, getting him some tickets here to a baseball game at LSU. Again, going out of his way to do something nice for a stranger. Look, are you always going to get rewarded with baseball tickets? No, probably not. But you do get the warm, fuzzy feeling of knowing that you helped somebody in need. I think that was enough for Mr. Wright, but hopefully he gets to see a good game as well. In the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. Michael Wright from Lafayette, Louisiana, we thank you for your very, very good deed. That is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program as always. I'm looking forward to being back with you again tomorrow. We're going to be talking with Mike Harris of the Gun Owners Action League about that Senate gun bill that dropped on Friday. They are racing towards a vote by February the 1st. While the bill is not as big and bad as the House gun control bill that was already passed last fall, there is still plenty for gun owners to be concerned about. And again, we'll go through it with Mike Harris from the Gun Owners Action League on Tuesdays, Bearing Arms Cam & Company. In the meantime, don't forget to check out bearingarms.com throughout the day. We're keeping you up to date on all of the latest Second Amendment news and information from all across the nation. And if you like what you see, I'd encourage you to sign up, become a VIP or VIP Gold member. All you have to do, go to bearingarms.com/subscribe, use the promo code GUNRIGHTS, and you can get a significant savings on your membership. In exchange, we're going to give you exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, because your support really does matter. And it truly does make a difference. So thank you again. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Till then, well, be safe and be free.